Welcome, everyone. In today's study, as we receive Masaaki-sama's sacred word, we will see that Masaaki-sama speaks directly to one of the most sensitive and personal areas of human life: our relationships, our faith, and the true order that governs both. This sacred word comes from a simple question, one that many sincere believers surely carry in their hearts. A question about how to serve together as a couple and be born anew. A question rooted on the ideas of harmony, mutual love, and respect. But as Masaaki-sama responds, he brings us to awaken to an extraordinary truth. Rather than offering reassurance or the usual guidance we might hear from other sources, Masaaki-sama leads us into words spoken by Jesus himself, passages from the gospel that are rarely discussed openly, and even more, rarely contemplated deeply. These are words that disturb our assumptions, challenge our priorities, and force us to look honestly at where our faith truly stands. What does it mean to follow God first? What does it mean to walk a spiritual path alone, even while living among family and loved ones? And why might the order we take for granted, faith after relationships, heaven after earth, be reversed? Masaaki-sama does not present these ideas as theory or doctrine, but by revealing this truth, I believe he is tasking each one of us to examine where our heart truly rests and what we might be clinging to without realizing it. As we receive this sacred word, we are being invited to pause, to listen, reflect on our own posture, and serve as a true follower on this path of salvation. This sacred word will most likely surprise you, even unsettle you, but it may open a door you did not expect to find. Stay tuned as we begin right after this. As we begin today's study, let us, in the name of Messiah, which is one with Meishu-sama, one with Jesus Christ, recognize that it is only by God's grace and Kyoshu-sama's permission that we are able to hold these studies. With hearts filled with gratitude for this permission, let us at this moment invite all our ancestors, the ancestors of all humanity, who live and breathe within each cell of our bodies, to participate in this study with us, acknowledging that the thoughts and feelings we experience during this study are the very thoughts and feelings that God has atoned for within each one of us. So in the name of Messiah, let us together with them return to heaven as ones who have been forgiven and saved. Let us begin today's study with the church canon. Church canon. With great fear of God, we acknowledge that the Lord God is our true Father, the one and only God. We revere Meishu-sama as the model for all humanity and as our own example to follow. Meishu-sama, who was born anew as a true child of God the Messiah, by receiving the divine will that God accomplished in heaven. We believe that Jesus Christ, who 2,000 years ago embodied the name of Messiah, the name most holy and high, is serving the Lord God in unity with Meishu-sama. We regard the sacred word of Kyoshu-sama, who reveals to us the will of Meishu-sama in this material world, as the sole, absolute, and irreplaceable foundation in advancing our mission here on earth. Words of prayer. God, I acknowledge that you are alive. Within me, you are alive. I thank you for nurturing me to be newly born as your child. May this blessing be shared with all. In the name of Messiah, which is one with Meishu-sama, I surrender myself to you. Please use me as you wish. Thank you very much for all of those watching today who have not yet become followers of our church's Instagram page. This is a great time to do so. And even more today, because we are seeking to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year for the Japanese page. So if you haven't subscribed yet, this is a great moment to do so. You can subscribe to the page in English and you can subscribe to the page in Japanese. Okay, we're looking to reach our goal. We're almost there, just a little over 300 subscribers to get to the goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So the link for that is right here. You can see it. And you can also see the link in English as we have here. All you have to do is open Instagram on your phone, search for World Church of Messiah or Sekai Messiah Kyo. Once the page opens, below the name of the page, you will see the button to follow. Click on it. But it doesn't end there. On the top right-hand corner is a bell sign. Click on it to enable notifications. Make sure to enable all notifications. By doing so, you will be updated daily and in real time when new posts are made in the Instagram page. This is a great way to align our sone and our hearts with the Holy Seed of Kyoshu on a daily basis. Through the Instagram page and Facebook, it is also a great way to see how our church is bringing this gospel of salvation to the world evermore, with not only the sacred words, but through prayer, food, and music, the three pillars of salvation. They are truly incredible posts. There's so much we can learn and so much that we can share with our family and friends. It is a true treasure. So if you haven't followed, follow now. This is a call out to everyone who hasn't followed yet. Let's click on it. Let's follow these pages, especially the Japanese page today, as we look to reach our 10,000 follower goal today, this year, before the year closes. All right, so we're counting on each one of you to do that. Every week I choose a post from Instagram, and today the post comes from the Harvest Thanksgiving service. Now this is a part 3 of the posts. I'm not going to share all of them here. I suggest you go in and check all of them out. But on this part 3 of the Harvest Thanksgiving service, we have the following report. At last, it was time to receive the sacred word of Masaaki-sama. At the very beginning, Mamioka-sama was suddenly called upon by Masaaki-sama and stood to give a greeting. Her kimono was a pure, light indigo color. It was decorated with a kai awase, shell-matching pattern. Mamioka-sama stated the reason she chose this kimono, explaining that the shells that match perfectly with each other symbolize a husband and a wife walking with one heart, and that she too would like to walk one heart with Masaaki-sama. The two, standing side by side before the altar, were truly like perfectly matched shells. The venue was filled with joyful smiles in this moment. Masaaki-sama wore a refined, solid gray kimono. The haori coat he wore over it had purple and gray vertical stripes. Those vertical lines indeed symbolize the truth from heaven that flows straight down to Masaaki-sama. As Mamioka-sama explained, his kimono was made without the use of animal-based silk. It was made with hemp and cotton. When Masaaki-sama got to the main subject of his sacred word, a torrent of light poured down with overwhelming passion and power. Masaaki-sama is one with Jesus Christ and Meishu-sama. All of us cannot help but be convinced of this. There is no one but Masaaki-sama who brings together the Bible and the sacred word of Meishu-sama. The truth that could never be made clear by anyone before in history. The sole path of salvation that no one could pioneer. Masaaki-sama accomplishes this. This is why Masaaki-sama stands tall in the history of humanity. Harvest Thanksgiving Service, Tokushima Church, December 1st, 2025. This is truly a very powerful post, I believe, for all of us. And it goes so well with the material we're going to be studying today. As we can see, learning from Mamioku-sama's spirit of becoming one heart with Masaaki-sama, serving as one, as she puts here, from the designs that she chose for the kimono. Today, we are going to see behind the scenes, through Masaaki-sama's sacred word, what that means, what it signifies to serve as one heart, as one couple in this path, what that truly entails, and how different that is from our human idea of how maybe we've been thinking of what it means for a couple to serve together. So, with open hearts, I like to receive with you today this sacred word. So these come from Masaaki-sama's sacred word, an excerpt from Question and Answers with Masaaki-sama in Portugal on July 6, 2025. Masaaki-sama's sacred word. Question. I am Fernando Chagas Alembert of the church here in Coimbra, Portugal. I can see in your eyes, Masaaki-sama, Mamioku-sama, a lot of harmony and admiration for one another. I can feel the love you have in the real sense of the word. Could you guide us regarding serving as a couple in the church and regarding the path for a couple to be born anew? Thank you. Masaaki-sama. Thank you, President Fernando, for your question. Well, I think it is very important to have a good relationship with each other as a couple. But today, I want to answer in the following way. In the Bible, there is Luke. Opening the Bible, Masaaki-sama says, Luke chapter 14. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. Chapter 14, verses 25 through 26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. Jesus is saying that if you love your wife or your husband, in the case of women, these people cannot be disciples of Jesus, correct? And there's another very strong passage with strict words from Jesus. After leafing through the Bible, Masaaki-sama says, Matthew chapter 10, do not think that I have come to bring peace to the world. No, I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. I came to set sons against their fathers, daughters against their mothers, daughters-in-law against their mothers-in-law. Your worst enemies will be the members of your own family. Chapter 10, verses 34 through 36. It is important to have a good relationship. I'm not saying that you need to divorce. Laughter. So only Jesus. I don't want you anymore. Only Jesus. I am not saying this. Laughter. Sometimes we have this idea, let us serve the divine plan together, holding hands. But I think that Jesus is showing that to enter heaven, you need to enter on your own. You cannot enter holding hands with your wife or with your husband. Why? Because if you focus more on earthly things, it is very difficult to follow God 100%. Because we always have two choices, earth or heaven. Always earth or heaven. In other words, earth or God. When we focus on having a good relationship with our family, with our husband, the focus will be on earthly things, correct? We prioritize earthly things. And Jesus is sternly warning us that to enter heaven, you need to do it on your own. Sometimes we want to avoid focusing on these passages because we want to say to the world, to have a good relationship with your wife is important. To have a good family is important. But Jesus is saying that he came not to bring peace, but a sword. Just making a quick pause, right? I think this is a big shocker for many of us, right? Who would think that Jesus was bringing such stern words into the world, right? We nowadays have this distorted idea of Jesus is love, everything is welcome, everything is peaceful. But Jesus is showing that there is a very, very true way and right way to be his followers, right? One thing that really shocked me was when we read and Masaaki-sama quoted that not only hate your father, mother, brother, sister, but also your own life. You cannot be his followers. How many of us, you might say, oh, it's easy, right? I don't like my family that much. I can do that. Some people might think like that, unfortunately as it may be. But how about yourself in your own life, in your own desires, in your own priorities, right? How many times during the day do we not prioritize our convenience more than serving God or what is right for God, right? I think many of us might fall into that category, right? And Masaaki-sama shares, he says, these words are very stern. If you want to enter heaven together with your wife or husband, God will reject you. If we want it to be that way, God will reject us. But if we say to God, I have my life, including my family, even so, I want to return my life to you, God, maybe he will say, good, you can enter. It's a very different way of seeing our relationship with God, is it not? I mean, were it not for these sacred words, I think I would have never come to this realization, right? It's not, as we'll see a little bit further, that I am rejecting my family, like Masaaki-sama also mentioned a little bit earlier, right? I only want Jesus now. I don't want you. I don't need you. It's not in that sense. We have our family, we have our loved ones, but we have to return that to God, right? Return ourselves. I return my life to you, God, right? I have all this, but I need to return to you. I need to receive your will, follow your will, right? I return that to you. Maybe he will say, good, you can enter, right? Whereas we might be saying, well, if we hear often, right? I can't go to church because my husband or my wife might not be pleased, or it might cause disharmony. Or if I speak this truth at home, it'll create conflict. So I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to bring it up. If everybody's not on board, then I'm not going, right? If everybody's not on board, I'm not serving. Everybody seeing the same way. And we're waiting or using our family and our relationships to, in a way, not seek God's way of seeing the world and God's way of living, right? It's a very, very different way to see the world. And Masaaki-sama shares, he says, this resolve is very important. I think this needs to be the bedrock of any couple. God comes first and worldly things second. This is something very difficult to do. He continues, if you think you and your wife have a good relationship, this is not because of earthly matters, but because God and Meishu-sama are permitting it in some way. We do not deserve it to have a good relationship. But if God looks upon us and thinks our faith is adequate enough, perhaps God will permit us to have a good relationship with our family as well. This is another very important point, right? As we're seeing here, as we looked earlier in the post from the Instagram, and we heard Mami Oksama's sone, right? When she explained about the design of her kimono and that shell fitting together and the couple serving as one. I am certain that within her thoughts, her faith, as well as Masaaki-sama, they have this bedrock resolve, this resolve as the core principle of their marriage, right? God comes first, right? And different from many of us today, right? We might think, oh, my relationship with my wife or my husband is so good because we work very hard at it. Or, for example, our relationship is not good because we're not working hard enough at it, right? We need to work and one help the other, one change the other. It's always so human-centered and human-focused. But look what Masaaki-sama is sharing here. He says, we do not deserve a good relationship, right? If you really stop to think about it from the beginning, right? We're sinners, right? We are only able to live and exist by God's grace. And we are here to serve God in his plan and his purpose, right? So he points out here, right? If our faith, if God and Meishu-sama look at us and see and think that our faith is adequate enough, perhaps they might permit us to have a good relationship with our family as well. And he says here, as well, and this is something that caught my attention, right? Because as well means following, right? So first and foremost, who does our relationship have to be good with, right? Who do we have to seek that relationship from? And the way I see this is seeking our relationship with God first, right? And he writes here, he says, this order, we inverted this order. We focus on earthly things first, and then afterward, we look toward God. But this order needs to be reverted. And we see it here very clearly, right? We're always seeking our family. We are always seeking a good relationship with our loved ones. But this needs to be inverted. It's not the earthly things that we need to seek first, but God. We need to look toward God first and foremost. And he says, in your question, I think it is very important to notice this point first. You said the path for a couple to be born anew. Meishu-sama said that he was born anew, but Meishu-sama at the time did not remarry another woman, right? But to have a child, you need a wife and a husband, correct? Meishu-sama was a man, so clearly Meishu-sama found a woman to have a child with. because Meishu-sama said that he was born anew as a newborn child. Meishu-sama was a man. This means that he found a woman within himself. If he did not find a woman in this world, and clearly he did not, this means that he found the feminine soul within himself. So like you, President Fernando, a man, within you is a feminine soul. And the women here, you have a masculine soul within you, Alpha and Omega. Sometimes people think that when you cannot find your significant other, you feel as if something is lacking in your life. But in truth, you're not. God already prepared everything within one person. So each person is a couple, right? In this world, you have the masculine soul, like yourself. But you are not lacking the feminine part, because within you, there is a feminine soul. Just make another quick pause here, right? This is incredible, right? To come to this, to receive this sacred word by Masaaki-sama, revealing this very truth, the very essence and meaning of Alpha and Omega. I think many of us have heard these words, right? Cited in the Bible, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Who here watching today, you can add it in your comments, have ever thought there are two parts for you? There are two souls. On top of that, one feminine and one masculine. And this union that Meishu-sama achieved, this new birth that Meishu-sama achieved, was with this soul within himself, this feminine soul that existed within himself. This is just incredible. I mean, I'd be lying to you to say if I understood this completely, right? I can't say that. But to be guided, to receive this truth, to receive the truth of the Bible and how it fits together with Meishu-sama's sacred, only Masaaki-sama can do this, as we saw in the post earlier today. And how blessed we are for it. On top of that, right? Look what Masaaki-sama is sharing here, which is so deep, right? Sometimes people think that when you cannot find your significant other, you feel as if you're lacking, right? Something's lacking in your life. And we usually, when that happens, we start comparing, right? Look at this couple, look at that family. Oh, they're so happy. They're this, they're that. They have this, they have that. I don't have that. But look what he's showing us here, and the truth that we need to admit to God. But in truth, you are not lacking. God already prepared everything within a person. So each person is a couple, right? In this world, you have the masculine soul like yourself, but you are not lacking the feminine part, because within you, there is a feminine soul. And he continues, we want to reunite with this feminine soul. It is to show how this type of thing takes place in the spiritual world that we meet women in this world too. This is the order, not the other way around. We have a feminine or masculine soul within us, and we wish to reunite with the soul. For this reason, we meet women and men in this world too. There is no other order. When you believe this, I think God will give you a more peaceful life with your wife as well. But you must wake up to this truth first. This is just another quick observation. Masaaki-sama is not sharing here when you understand this, right? When you feel this, when you comprehend it to its entirety. No, he's saying when you believe this. To believe this is key. Believe this truth is key. After all, this is a path of faith and belief, right? Believe in something you can't see, in something that you can't prove. When you believe this, I think God will give you a more peaceful life with your wife as well. But you must wake up to this truth first, right? We have to recognize it exists. We have to acknowledge it before God that it exists. He says, this is more or less what I wanted to say regarding this question. Excerpt from Questions and Answers with Masaaki-sama in Portugal, July 6, 2025. This sacred word is short. It's an excerpt, right? It's a question and answer, but we are so blessed to have Masaaki-sama answering these questions and guiding us even deeper into this truth of God, revealing to us how to truly align ourselves with God's will, to serve this will, right? Truly align ourselves to receive this truth of Jesus and Meishu-sama, to be able to be born anew as children of God, Messiahs, fulfilling our mission here on this earth. It is an incredible moment in time for us to be alive, to be on this earth, and to be a part of this most wonderful movement. And I think that every day that passes, every sacred word that we receive, I feel ever more embraced and ever more loved by God and completely filled with joy. And this joy is something that we can impart with others. Let us reach out to our family and friends, right? Let us bring this gospel of salvation, putting this truth before anything else, putting this to the world, right? Truly following Jesus, the footsteps of Jesus and Meishu-sama, to serve God with our whole body, our whole being. Thank you so much for joining us. This material is available in the description. Feel free to download it. Feel free to study it. There's so much here and so much that we can reflect on our daily lives and repent and change and seek to serve God with all our heart, all our soul, with our whole being. It's been a great year this year with all the studies that we've been permitted to have. I really look forward for us to be able to continue receiving the sacred words next year. I encourage each and every one of you to follow the page of our Instagram page, sekaimishiakyo.org, if you haven't done so yet. Let us reach this goal of 10,000 followers by the end of this year and connect as many people as possible to this gospel of salvation. Thank you so much for joining us, and may all honor, may all glory be returned to God always.